Hey y'all, what's up? It's Ashlyn here. So as you can see, we have this really cute little stack of books here. There are 9 books total. So what I've decided I'm going to do is we're going to make a try a chapter. So these are some of the books from my October book haul that I have not yet gotten to that I want to jump into to see if I'm actually going to like them or not. So we'll know right away if I'm going to pull them off of the TBR. So without further ado, here we go. Now I have these organized by size. So we're going to go smallest to largest book. So bear with me. The first book is Don't Look by Alexandra Ivy. Yes, I know it's got the stupid Walmart price sticker on it, but you know what? There's nothing I can do about it. So this one was, as a recap, this one was about a serial killer. Kerr hoped that his father's frantic calls about a serial killer were just an old man's delusions, but the body count doesn't lie. In this quiet town, a monster stalks and kills, and soon Lynn's will be the last name on its list. So if you're on his list, you're as good as dead. So here we go. There is a section before it starts called Targeted, which I think is like a prologue. Your father called me a couple months ago, Lynn said. He said he got in a letter. He was convinced I was being hunted by a serial killer. Kerr sucked in a sharp breath. Why didn't you call and let me know he'd contacted you? To be honest, I didn't pay any attention to his warning. He'd called the office when I was in the middle of delivering a litter of pups, demanding to speak to me. When I got on the phone, his words were slurred as if he'd been drinking, and he just kept saying over and over I was going to be murdered. When I pressed him for details, he said he had been getting letters from a serial killer who was intending to kill the women of Pike. I honestly thought he was confusing the plot of a movie he was watching with real life. Kerr moved forward, grabbing her hand to give it a small squeeze. Don't apologize, Lynn. I'm just on edge, and trust me, you weren't the only one to dismiss my father's ravings. The sheriff did. I did. His voice broke, and he was forced to clear the lump from his throat. Or at least I assumed that if he truly was getting letters, they must be from someone who was trying to screw with him. What else could we think when there were never any bodies? Until now. Oh, wow. She's got a lot of books out. Other books by Alexandra Ivy. Guardians of Eternity series, the Immortal Rogue series, the Sunteal series, Era's Security series. Historical romance books. Some like it wicked, some like it sinful, some like it brazen. Romantic suspense. Pretend you're safe. What are you afraid of? You will suffer. The Intended Victim. Oh, why is this under romantic suspense? That's weird. And don't miss these centennial novellas, Out of Control, On the Hunt. Taken by Darkness, 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 Beyond the Darkness. Wow, a lot of darkness. Alright, this is by Zebra Books, Kensington Publishing Corporation, by the way. And it's from copyright 2020. Here we go. You guys ready? I need a minute. Eyes aren't the windows to the soul. Funerals are. They reveal precisely how the deceased lived their lives and how those who remain behind want them to be remembered. Some are glorious celebrations of a generous heart. Some are garish displays of wealth and power. Some are small, intimate gatherings that are too painful to be shared with others. This one was bleak. There was no other way to describe it. Standing next to the open grave that has to be chiseled into the frozen ground, Dirk Jansen cast a restless glance around the smattering of guests. Pike, Wisconsin, was a small rural town in the heart of dairy country where neighbors were closely acquainted with one another. But Rudolph's last 18 years had been a downward spiral into the dark chasm of alcoholism. He wasn't surprised that there weren't many who were willing to brave the bitter January weather. His attention moved to the preacher who was reciting a prayer in a monotone voice. Pastor Ron Bradshaw was a scrawny man in his late 20s with pasty white skin and dark hair that looked as if it had been trimmed with a pair of dull scissors. He kept the service blessedly short, merely mentioning the deep loss that would be felt by Rudolph Jansen's family and community at his death. Kerr didn't mind that there hadn't been any mention of the positive aspects of his father's life, although there had been plenty of things to make a man proud. Rudolph had once been a highly respected sheriff in Pike with a wife and son he adored. It wasn't until he'd been attempting to arrest a petty drug dealer that his life had gone in the crapper. The shootout had left the criminal dead, and Rudolph was with a bullet in his brain that had forced an early retirement. Without the job that had been at the core of his self-worth, nothing had been the same. Shuffling through the old memories to happier times had felt like ripping open ancient wounds. To Kerr, as he'd prepared to attend the funeral, he tucked away his life in Pike the day he'd packed his bags to head to college in Boston, and he never looked back. Being forced to recall the childhood days when he'd been a part of a loving, secure family had only emphasized what he'd lost. With a last plea for Rudolph's salvation, Pastor Bradshaw motioned that the funeral was over and Kerr returned to greet the mourners with grim determination. It was the least he could do after they braved the brutal weather to pay their respects. First up was a distant cousin, Dirk Jansen. He was a large, gruff man in his late 60s who had visited Rudolph the last Sunday of every month. He called it his family duty to try and make Rudolph repent his evil ways. Kerr's father had called it a pain in his ass. Now, Kerr politely shook the man's hand, even as he blocked out the droning lecture on the damaging effects of alcohol. The idiot had no idea he was far more a pariah in this small community than Rudolph had ever been. A perpetual drunk was an annoyance, but there was nothing worse than a pompous blowhard. Dirk at last moved on to allow the clutch of elderly women to surge forward en masse. Kerr assumed they attended every funeral in the area, regardless if they personally knew the deceased or not. He accepted their sympathies with a distracted nod and barely noticed as they scurried toward their waiting cars. Instead, his focus was locked on the young woman who was holding out a slender hand. Kerr experienced a strange sensation as he reached to squeeze her fingers that were covered in a leather glove and skimmed a quick glance down her slender body. "I'm sorry, dude, you're at a funeral. What are you doing?" Dr. Lynn Gale was a tiny woman with light brown hair she kept pulled into a messy ponytail. Her skin was pale and smooth with a smattering of freckles across the bridge of her slender nose, making her look like a teenager, although he knew she was just a couple grades behind him in school, which meant she had to be at least 30. Her eyes were dark and penetrating and surrounded by long lashes he suspected were real. He'd never seen this woman wearing makeup when they were younger or later than when they crossed paths during his infrequent trips to visit his dad. To combat the bitter cold, she was wearing a sensible parka that fell to her knees and a pair of heavy snow boots. "I'm so sorry for your loss, Kerr." Oh my gosh, sorry, my nose itches, you guys. I don't know if these little baby hairs are getting me or if it's just like the cold getting to me. There was a gentle sympathy in her voice that threatened to bring the tears to his eyes that had been lacking during the preacher's sermon. His father had always admired Lynn. He called her a traditional small-town girl with a big heart. It was true she had a big heart, but there was nothing traditional about her. From a young age, she'd been blunt and opinionated and ruthless when it came to protecting the vulnerable, especially if they happened to be furry. It's 2 R's. It hadn't always made her a favorite with the other kids, including himself. Now that he was older, it was a trait he truly admired. You always knew where you stood with Lynn Gale. He cleared his throat, forcing himself to release his grip on her fingers. "Thank you for coming, Lynn," she shrugged. "My father and Rudolph were friends their entire lives." A bittersweet sensation tugged at Kerr's heart. Her father had been the local vet, and like Rudolph, his wife had walked out on him, leaving behind a young daughter to raise. "Gavin was one of the few people in this town who stood by my father. I'll never be able to repay his loyalty. He sends his sympathies. I assume he's still in Florida." "Yeah, he hated to miss the funeral, but it's been hard for him to travel since he fell and broke his hip." "I'm relieved he didn't risk the trip," Kerr assured her, glancing toward the thick layer of snow that coated the landscape in white. "It was beautiful but deadly. This weather isn't fit for retired veterinarians." It's true that he prefers the warm beaches these days. "Who wouldn't?" He glanced back at her. "I can't believe you stayed here when you could be living in the sunshine." "It's home," she said without hesitation. Kerr flinched as her words struck a raw nerve. Pike had once been home, until the night his father had been shot, and Boston, well, it was where he lived. He wasn't sure that qualified as being his home. For some. "I suppose you'll be returning to Boston?" she asked, as if sensing she'd unwittingly intensified Kerr's feelings of grief. "In a few days, I want to clean out the house and talk to a realtor about putting it on the market. I hate to have it sitting empty. If you need anything, just give me a call." They were the customary words offered at funerals, pleasant platitudes, but suddenly Kerr was hit by an overwhelming desire to see this woman again. He wasn't sure why, he just knew that he had an urge to connect with someone in Pike before he walked away forever. and there was always the possibility that she might have talked to his father or seen the older man. Kerr needed, what? Closure, perhaps? He felt as if his anchor had been cut and he was floating in a sea of regret, guilt, and something perilously close to relief that he would never see his father suffering again. How about lunch tomorrow? She blinked, clearly caught off guard. I usually eat something in my office at the clinic. Good. His tone left no room for her to politely wiggle out of his invitation. I'll bring my famous deconstructed sushi on pain de seagull. She blinked again, this time in confusion. Excuse me? Tuna fish sandwich on rye bread, he translated. Her lips quirked in a genuine smile. Okay, I usually take a break around noon. See you then, he said. She turned to scurry toward the red truck parked near the road. Kerr watched her pull away before he turned to face the man who was stoically waiting near the open grave. Thank you, Pastor, he said, forcing himself to move forward, holding out his hand. I was pleased to be able to help in your father's time of need. I appreciate you stepping in on short notice. The clergyman lifted his brows at Kerr's word. It wasn't. Kerr dropped his hand and stepped back. He didn't want to stand where he could see the glossy casket that was waiting to be covered by the piles of frozen dirt. It somehow made his father's death irrevocable. Stupid, but there it was. I beg your pardon? He asked, confused by Bradshaw's response. It wasn't short notice, Bradshaw said. I don't understand. Your father asked me if I would officiate his funeral service. Kerr stiffened. When he'd received the call from the sheriff that his father had been found dead at the bottom of the stairs, he'd asked for his body to be sent to the local funeral parlor. Everything had been such a blur since then that he hadn't questioned why this pastor had been selected to perform the service. He'd assumed it was some sort of package deal that went with the grave plot, the headstone, and the flowers that had been placed on top of the casket. Now he frowned in confusion. When did he ask you? A couple weeks ago. I didn't realize the two of you were acquainted. It's a small town, so of course, our paths had crossed, but I can't say that we were acquainted. His request came as something of a surprise, to be honest. It isn't uncommon for elderly parishioners to contemplate the end of their lives. Many even make arrangements for their funeral, but your father was in the prime of his life, and he assured me that he wasn't ill. Kerr winced. His father's death had come as a complete shock. Despite his heavy drinking, he had always maintained robust health. It had taken a fall down the stairs that cracked his skull to kill the stubborn old fool. No, his liver wasn't in great shape, but he certainly wasn't on death's door. Well, he did say something about being tired. Perhaps he had a premonition. It does happen. A shiver threaded its way down Kerr's spine. Was it possible his father had some sense that the end was near? No, his rational mind fiercely dismissed the ridiculous explanation. If his father had reached out, there was a logical reason. Why you? I mean... Kerr paused as he tried to imagine his father seeking out a pastor. Rudolph rarely left his house unless it was to go to the neighborhood bar. He didn't attend your church, did he? No, to be honest, I'm not sure why he chose me. I was returning to the church after spending the morning at the local thrift shop, and your father suddenly pulled his truck into the parking lot and jumped out, waving his hands to get my attention. I thought at first there must be some sort of emergency. Kerr frowned. Had his father been drunk? Perhaps delusional? What did he say? He introduced himself and we spoke for a couple minutes. Then he asked if I would arrange his funeral. I asked him to come inside and discuss why he sought me out and if perhaps there was something I could do to assist him in this time of need, but he refused. He insisted he had to get home. When I read in the paper that Rudolph had passed, I contacted the funeral director to inform him of your father's request. How... Kerr's words faded. It was simply impossible to imagine his father appearing on a church doorstep with the sole purpose of asking a complete stranger to officiate his funeral. Weird? Yeah. It is he who reveals the profound and hidden things, the pastor quoted from the Bible. I suppose Kerr wasn't in the mood to discuss theology. He wanted to know what was in his father's mind. Did he say anything else? Not really. Oh, wait. I almost forgot. He dug into the pocket of his heavy jacket, pulling out a folded piece of paper. Here. Kerr allowed the man to show the paper in his hand. Was it a bill? Maybe he expected to get paid on the spot. What's this? Kerr demanded, even as he mentally calculated how much cash was in his wallet. I don't know. Your father handed it to me before he left the church and asked me to give it to you after the funeral. I assume it's a personal note he wanted you to have once he died. The vague sense of unreality was laced with a strange prickle of fear as Kerr stuffed the paper into the pocket of his coat. You really didn't know my dad, he muttered suddenly, needing to get away from the snow-smothered cemetery and the pastor, who was regarding him with a sympathetic smile. Thanks again. The doors to the church are always open, Ron called out as Kerr turned to hurry down the narrow path to his waiting SUV. Rest in peace, Dad. He prayed as he drove away. Dear Rudolph, I'm so sorry to say you had a shitty funeral. The attendance was sparse, and the few who were there hurried away as soon as the preacher said amen. I did warn you that I wasn't the only one who truly cared about you. Why did you threaten to betray me? Now you're gone, and my lust is no longer leashed. It's exploding out of me as if a dam has burst, and I've already chosen my first. Should I call her a victim? She's not innocent. She spread my most private treasures across the snow as if they were trash. She gutted me to reveal my innards to the entire world, and then she laughed, the harsh brain laugh of a donkey. No, she's not innocent. This time I will be the one laughing as I watch her crimson blood stain the pure white snow. Life spills from warm to frozen. The pain is gone. Don't look. Revenge is mine. Sherry Higgins sat on a high stool in the small office building overlooking the Pike Trailer Park. She was a large woman with a square head and a matching square body. She currently had stuffed in a velvet jogging suit. Her father had spent her childhood calling her a worthless blockhead, only one of the reasons she spit on his grave. The only decent thing he'd ever done was die when she was a young woman, giving her sole ownership of the park. It wasn't a great living, but the rent from the trailers, plus utilities, provided enough to scrape by. On the other side of the counter, a young man with a haggard face and messy red hair was glaring at her with bloodshot eyes. You... Spittle formed at the edge of his mouth. Bitch. She rolled her eyes, returning her gaze to the television set on the corner of the counter. The idiot had stormed into the office when she was watching her favorite reality show. Your job is to throw families out of their homes in the middle of winter? Want to stay warm? Pay your rent. I'm going to. I have a new job. I'm starting on Monday. That's what you said last month. Yeah, but she waved a silencing hand in his direction. I don't want to hear it. Pay or get out. Where are we supposed to go? The man whined. It was the same conversation Sherry had endured 1,000 times over the past 20 years. Boo-hoo, I lost my job, my kid is sick, my car broke down, blah, blah, blah. Everyone had an excuse why they couldn't fulfill their obligations. I run a trailer park, not a charity. Call the government. They're always handing out money to lowlifes who can't keep a job. People who work never get nothing but the bill. At least give me a few days to find some place we can stay. We have a baby. Not my problem. You have 1 hour left to pay the rent, or I'll turn off the electricity and water. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Without warning, the man slammed his hand down on the counter. Someday you're going to get what's coming to you. Sherry leaned forward, glowering at the intruder. There's a camera right there. She stabbed a sausage-shaped finger toward the ceiling where a small hole was drilled. There wasn't anything there. She was too cheap to actually buy security equipment, but the threat was usually enough. You say another word, and I'll have you charged with harassment. The man's face turned a beet red, but he turned and stomped across the floor. I hope you rot in hell, he yelled as he slammed the door shut behind him. Sherry snorted. I've been rotting in hell for years. With a shake of her head, she returned her attention to the television. She was far more interested in what was happening with the naked people trying to survive in the wilderness than the people who rented her trailers. Bunch of losers. Oh my god, why is my eye messing up again? Darkness thickened outside, the sound of the wind whistling through the windows. It was past 5, but Sherry made no move to go and check if the delinquent tenants had made their exit from the park. If they were there in the morning, she'd have the sheriff kick their asses out. It was too damn cold to do anything tonight. Flicking off the television, she stood and moved to lock the front door. Her own trailer was at the end of the park, which meant she didn't have to face the icy roads to get home. Still, she wasn't excited by the thought of the frigid walk through the dark. Not for the first time she considered moving closer to the office. She wouldn't have the yard that currently surrounded her mobile home or a view of the lake, but she could avoid the trudging back and forth. Heading out through the back storage room, she didn't bother to turn on the lights. It was easy enough to follow the narrow path between stacked boxes and old broken furniture. She could do it with her eyes closed. It wasn't until she heard the unmistakable tread of a footstep that she regretted the thick darkness that made it impossible to see. Her heart thudded, the pizza she had for lunch turning uneasily in her stomach. Hello? Who's there? Reaching out her hand, she tried to find something she could use as a weapon. There was nothing. How the hell did you get in here? I'm sorry, Sherry. A portion of her terror lessened. There was something familiar about the voice. Was it one of her tenants? You better be sorry, she told the intruder, reaching into the pocket of her jogging suit to pull out her phone. This is breaking and entering. Don't think I won't call the sheriff. There was a sound like someone clicking their tongue. You brought this on yourself. Bullshit. If you needed something, you should have come through the front door during normal business hours. Sherry hit the flashlight on her phone and swung it toward the intruder. The idiot was too far away to make out more than the fact that he or she was bundled in a heavy coat with a stocking cap on their head and something clutched in their hand. A gun? Shit. You never change. All that squawking in an effort to disguise just how weak you are. Weak? I'm not weak. She tried to bluff cautiously, inching backward. If she could get into her office, she could lock the door and call the sheriff. Just ask anyone. Terrorizing helpless victims doesn't make you strong. Most cowards are bullies. The arm lifted, pointing the gun straight toward the middle of her chest. Laugh for me, Sherry. Her mouth was so dry she could barely speak. What? Laugh. I can't. Do it. The words were low, almost gentle, but they sent a blast of terror through Sherry. This wasn't some weird-ass joke. The intruder was going to shoot her if she didn't find some way to get out of there. Parting her lips, she forced a hoarse laugh past the lump jammed in her throat. It echoed through the room, sounding unnaturally loud in the silence. Just like a donkey. There was disgust in the voice. Sherry flinched. Her father used to say that. You brayed just like an ass. She slid her thumb to the corner on the screen of her phone and pressed. That was emergency service. Wasn't it? Then, praying that someone was on the way to save her, she tried to distract the intruder. What did I ever do to you? He stepped forward. You didn't see? See what? Me. She scowled. Why was this weirdo talking in riddles? If they had a beef with her, then just spit it out. She was on the point of demanding an explanation when she heard the sound of a click followed by a sharp pain in her right shoulder. Had he shot her? It didn't sound loud enough to be a gun, but maybe he had a silencer on it? Terrified to even look, Sherry forced herself to glance down at her shoulder, not sure what to expect. What she saw wasn't a gaping hole or spurting blood from a bullet wound. Instead, it looked like a long metal tube was sticking out of the velvet material of her jogging suit. She tried to puzzle out what was happening, but her brain felt fuzzy, as if it was being stuffed with cotton, and her dry mouth was now parched. What the hell? She took a stumbling step in a futile effort to escape, but her weak knees abruptly gave way and she landed flat on her back. She grunted in pain. She was a large woman who hit the cement floor with enough force to knock the air from her lungs. It wasn't the impact, however, that caused her heart to halt in pure horror. It was a dark form that moved to stand directly over her. Laugh for me, Sherry. Wow, okay. Long chapters, though. Oh my. Like 16-page chapters, but it sounds like it's gonna be really good. And Sherry got what she deserves. Let's be real, okay? That lady ticked me off so bad. Alright, up next we have Horror Hotel by Victoria Fulton and Faith McLaren. Oh, this says, when the YouTube famous ghost gang Chrissy, Chase, Emma, and Kiki visit a haunted LA hotel notorious for tragedy to secretly film after dark, they expect it to be just like their previous paranormal huntings, spooky enough to attract subscribers and ultimately harmless. But when they stumble upon something unexpected in the former room of a gruesome serial killer, they quickly realize that they are in over their heads. Sometimes it's the dead who need our help and the living we should fear. This book is from 2022. Alright, the last post. An excerpt from Eileen Warren's blog, All Those Who Wander, 2 days before her body was found in an elevator shaft at the Hearst Hotel. Oh, wait. Give me 1 second. Lost in La La Land, June 16th. LA is the craziest, weirdest, saddest place I have ever been. Everywhere I look, there are people screaming. I'm staying at the Hearst Hotel for economic reasons, but the longer I'm here, the more my brain buzzes and I can't think straight. I swear this hotel is alive. I keep seeing things out of the corner of my eyes. Shadows, faces. I hear things too. Whispers, voices. The night before last, I woke up screaming and scattered the shit out of my hostile roommates. I think they asked to switch rooms because now all their stuff is gone, but I hear them giggling in the hallway. Why can't I just be normal? The Hearst whispers all of its secrets in my ears. It shows me all of its ghosts, but I'm tired, not scared. Not anymore. Just numb. I want friends, a boyfriend, a brain that doesn't see things that aren't there. I came to LA to find myself, but somehow I'm more lost than ever. This hotel is hungry. I hope it doesn't swallow me whole. E. The Ghost Code. Laws of the Ghost Gang, punishable by death. Just kidding. But you will get a stern talking to by Chase, which is probably worse. 1. Never go anywhere alone. Buddy system. 2. Majority rules. 3. Phones on airplane mode at all times. Hi, Kiki. 4. No provoking or tormenting the spirit world. 5. Never give up personal info while chatting with the ghost. 6. Before leaving a location, thank the spirits and tell them they cannot come home with you. 7. If an entity follows you home, let the group know immediately. Chapter 1. Chrissy. Die, you pig-faced bitch. Damn it, Kiki, we told you to never read the comments. Chase scolds Kiki without looking up from the video he's editing with intense focus. Do I have a pig face? When Kiki looks up from her phone, she's near tears. She's the most sensitive soul on planet Earth. Also, somehow the most lovable. Emmeline sucks in a deep breath to suppress an eye roll, her fingers tightening on the EMF detector she's fiddling with. Emma is thick-skinned with steel guts. She's smart as hell and will go to any school she wants next year, no doubt one of the Ivies. This ghost detector is an Emma brainchild, just like a lot of our gear. Apparently this one uses electromagnetic frequencies to spell out words. It mostly works. Oh my god, no, Emma grunts. It's probably about me, I say. Kiki's pulsing with energy and I'm already on the verge of a headache. I throw her a reassuring smile and squeeze her hand. It does the trick. Her nerves settle and the throbbing in my head lightens. Kiki's gained a few pounds recently, and despite the fact that the weight looks good on her, she's letting it get to her. It's not something she says to me, it's something that pops into my head, a thought that doesn't belong to my own brain. Other people's thoughts often drop into my head like pebbles in a stream. Feelings out of place and unfamiliar, a voice that isn't my own, knowledge I shouldn't have and can't explain. I run a hand through my hair and realize the reason Kiki's in my head is because I've taken my hat off to scratch my scalp. I throw the wool beanie back on and make a mental note to find a different, not itchy hat for this weekend. Hats are my mind's protection from unwanted, intrusive thoughts and feelings from both the living and the dead. Cue that famous line whispered by the little kid in the movie, The Sixth Sense. I see dead people. Wah, wah, wah. A blessing and a curse, right? Scares you shitless when you're 3 years old and you wake up to a shadowy man standing in your bedroom doorway. You're unable to move, too scared to make a sound. After countless nights of terror, you get fed up and tell him to go away. Surprise, surprise, he doesn't budge. Shortly after he appears, your mom starts talking special trips to the hospital with your dad while you play at the neighbor's house. Eventually, she loses all her pretty hair and gets really skinny and sad with hollows under her eyes. For 2 years, the shadow man appears in your doorway, faceless and silent. It's not until you're 5 years old that you finally ask him what he wants. This time, he starts to move to shiver like you're looking at him through a glass of water. 1 second, he's in the doorway, the next, he's right in front of you. No eyes, no mouth, no nose. A shadow where his head should be. You scream until you black out, and when you wake up in the morning, your mother is dead. Everyone you try to tell pats you on the back with poor little girl just lost her mommy eyes. What a horrible dream. That must have really scared you, huh? But what they don't know is that now the spirit world has got your number, so your childhood bedroom becomes a rest stop on the road to the great beyond. A holding cell for souls with unfinished business, or those who die too soon, sometimes violently. Unfortunately, spoiler alert, there's no otherworldly psychiatrist to help you cope with all the dead people. You do eventually tell your dad, and he shrugs it off as silly kid stuff. You realize you're all alone with this curse, so you're going to have to figure it out. You try lots of things to get the dead people to go away, to get them out of your head, but nothing works. No, they don't always want your help. Yes, sometimes they just want to scare you. The spirit realm is not the rainbows and butterflies place. Most psychic mediums, who are mostly frauds, will tell you it is. It's not black and white like that. So you learn to deal because what other choice do you have? You start sleeping with the pillow over your head because it drowns out the voices. Never completely, but just enough to let you sleep for a few hours at a time. You realize later that a hat works just as well as a pillow and is portable, so it becomes your number one fashion accessory. Enter Chase Montgomery. He's cute and a nerd, so when he's assigned to be your partner for a film class project, you secretly jump for joy. Little do you know, your secret talent for communicating with the dead shows up on a film. Streaks of light and orbs plague the camera in your presence. Chase not only notices, he also directly inquires as to why that could be. You try to make something up on the fly, but unfortunately for you, Chase and his mom are avid paranormal TV enthusiasts. Chase calls you out as exactly what you are, and it's the first time anyone has ever believed you. He's also the first person who sees your curse as a blessing. He calls it a gift. It's refreshing, though you wouldn't necessarily agree. He asks if he can interview you on his budding YouTube channel. The episode gains him 100 new subscribers almost overnight, so he recruits his genius tech geek bestie Emma to help him shoot a full episode of what starts out as Ghost Girl. You do readings for people and take your audience on what you call ghost walks of haunted Vegas locals. In just a few short months, Ghost Girl gains a cute fan base of about 10,000 subscribers. It's impressive, but Chase is always hungry, never satisfied. He recruits Kiki Lawrence to do a reading with you. Kiki is TikTok famous for her feminist rants, dramatic makeup transformations, and viral dances in kaleidoscopic 60s go-go dancer-inspired outfits. Not to mention, she's got the most beautiful color-changing hair on the planet. Kiki's terrified yet charming reaction to your talk with her dead grandmother skyrockets the channel to 50,000 fans. Turns out the people want a cast of characters, and when you're in show business, you learn to give them what they want. Just like that, the Ghost Gang is officially born. Now you have friends and a purpose, but what you don't have is anyone who understands. You're alone with the voices inside your head, and not even the scratchiest wool hat can keep them out. Kiki gasps, and it shakes me out of my reverie. Come on, are you looking at comments again? Chase asked, annoyed. No. Kiki tries to hide her phone behind her back as Chase makes a grab for it. He's quicker than she is, and as he reads what's on the screen, his jaw tightens. What is it? Reluctantly, Chase turns the phone so we can all read the comment. If I kill you, will you stay with me forever? Yikes. Stalker much? Emma tugs nervously at the strings of her hoodie. It's haunted by her 666. Chase says, frowning. He looks at me, his eyes worried. I know he thinks it's directed at me. The problem is this isn't the first time we've heard from Haunted by Her 666. The comments started about a year ago. We think it's a guy because, well, statistics point to online trolling being perpetrated mostly by men. His comments are usually about killing you, whoever you is, but he never goes into specifics. He just drops a murderous load in the comments and takes off. Other fans reply to him in our defense, but he never engages further. It's one and done, and then he disappears sometimes for months. We always report him, but somehow he keeps coming back. It's creepy as hell, but it never escalates past the comments, and there's not much the authorities can do about cyber stalkers until they basically come to your house waving a gun around. It's just some internet troll, reported to YouTube. Chase nods solemnly. He clicks the 3 little dots next to the username and flags the comment for harassment. I do everything I can to stay out of Chase's head, always. He hates it when I hear his thoughts, but this time his feelings make his internal dialogue too loud to ignore. Chrissy's in danger. I'm not, I say. I clap one hand over my mouth when I realize I've just responded to a private thought. Chase groans out loud and slams his computer shut. He stands up and shoves his hands in his pockets before stalking to the pool house door. Kiki and Emma exchange a knowing look from the plush white sofa across the room. Chase's family's pool house is all lush decor meant to impress guests, but we're pretty much the only ones ever in here to use the handmade marble coasters on the $3,000 restoration hardware coffee table. We keep the furry lavender throw pillows and crystal candle holders in pristine condition. Where are you going? Snack, he says, throwing the door open, slams shut behind him. Chase blows off steam for a few minutes and comes back in a much better mood with an armful of snacks from his parents' overstuffed pantry. We gorge ourselves on Cheetos and Doritos and all variations of Etos, using paper towels to clean the dust from our fingers so we don't get it on the throw pillows, and wait impatiently for the final cut of our latest episode. Genius perfection, Chase finally exclaimed, spinning around in his editing chair, eyes a little dilated from staring at the screen. Joy pulses from him like the score of a Disney movie. Anyone want a final look before I upload? He's not really asking. The cursor hovers above the publish button. We know that's rhetorical, Emma says, shooting up from her chair and over to the black bag she's lined up to load all our gear. She sets the EMF reader in its cushioned bag right next to the thermographic camera filters she assembled from materials she found on Amazon. I watched the little gray bar on Chase's screen slowly edge forward. The video is a teaser for the Halloween special we're shooting this weekend. It's a sizzle reel of the last few months of episodes plus a reading at the Bellagio Ballroom on the Las Vegas Strip. Most of our episodes are documentary style, like Ghost Hunters, but without the sci-fi budget. We're most funded by Chase's real estate mogul father when he decides to take a break from being disgusted by his son's Hollywood dreams. Also, Chase mows lawns on weekends to pay for our travel expenses, and Kiki worked out an influencer deal with an online store called Ghost Tech to get us discounted ghost hunting gear. Vegas is full of haunted locals, and we use the Montgomery name to shoot just about wherever we want, since most of the casino owners live in houses developed by Chase's dad. Our first on-location shoot was at the Sand Hill Tunnels, the site of a tragic car crash. We filmed at the Luxor on the Strip, where too many depressed patrons have leapt to their deaths inside the pyramid. Then there's the Hoover Dam, which has a similar problem, and lest we forget, the corner of Flamingo and Coble, where Tupac was gunned down at a red light. Even in broad daylight, there's something eerie and sad about that intersection. Ooh. Chase pops up, stretching long, my eyes fixed on the strip of tan skin showing between the hem of his t-shirt and his jeans. He's backlit by the 3 computer monitors set up on the wall-to-wall desk that he uses to edit in addition to his laptop. I don't realize I'm staring until he walks over to the snack pile and picks up a Kit Kat. He unwraps it, snaps it in two, and shoves half into his mouth. All right, plan for tomorrow? He asks, mouthful. Kiki is already taking off her swimsuit cover up like business time has ended, but with Chase, that's never the case. Her face twitches with disappointment and my heart clenches. She's right. We rarely just chill. Kiki rolls her eyes and flops down on the sofa, crossing her legs, her newly pink and purple streaked hair sits coiled on top of her head, beautifully contrasting with her dark brown skin. Chase grabs a Mountain Dew from the mini fridge and hovers behind the sofa, holding the soda in one hand and opening the Waz app on his phone with the other. I packed up most of the gear, Emma says. She yanks off her glasses and uses the hem of her t-shirt to wipe them clean of any smudges. We should head out in the morning, Chase says. Kiki groans loudly. Chase messes with the plan, a drive settings in the app. It says the Hearst Hotel is only 4 hours away as long as we leave by 11. We're going to what is quite possibly the most haunted hotel in America and one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in Los Angeles in record-scorching SoCal heat on Halloween weekend, all without parental permission. I can't believe you're actually going to go through with this, Emma says, eyes on Chase. Chase is willing to make bold moves for the channel, but he has never risked the wrath of his parents in such a blatant way. He shrugs, but he's sweating. The trip is our ticket to 1 million subs. The benefits outweigh the risk. Taking your mom's Escalade to downtown LA without telling her? You're a madman. We're there and back just one night. Chase forces a grin. He simmers with nervous energy, ready to explode into a rolling boil any second. What's the worst that could happen? Why would you say that? Kiki squeaks, covering her ears. We're doomed for sure now. Emma slaps a hand over her forehead for added drama. Chase frowns at both of them and crosses his arms over his chest, trying to hide the pit sweat seeping through his white t-shirt. I giggle, fully aware that they are mostly teasing him. Chase is serious about being serious, a trait he inherited from his 0-year-old dad, who inherited it from his 0-year-old dad, a fact that I know only because I catch occasional glimpses of Chase's dead grandfather scowling at me from a second-story window. We all told our parents different stories about where we're going on Saturday. Chase told his parents he's doing an SAT prep all-nighter at our school. Kiki told her mom we're going on a camping trip, and Emma told her parents she's going to a robotics conference. As for me, my dad doesn't really notice when I'm not there, so I plan to leave him a stack of microwave meals in the freezer along with a note that I'll be back on Sunday. Not that my dad would care that much anyway. He's got more of a fall asleep in front of the TV type of parenting style. Also, depression. My grandmother, whom I never met, shows up in my dreams sometimes begging me to get my dad on meds. I always remind her that I'm not a doctor and that he refuses to see one. She's not happy with how my dad is handling things in my mother's absence, but there's not much she can do about it from beyond the grave. As for my mother, I've never seen her in spirit, not one time. I tried to summon her myself once with a Ouija board in an attic and ended up with a back full of bloody scratches from malevolent ghosts. Don't ever touch, don't even look at a Ouija board. Unfortunately, you can't pick and choose the ghosts you summon. They choose you. People, I say, drawing their attention to me before everyone's nerves get the best of them. Kiki told us recently to stop saying guys since it's not gender inclusive. It's too late to back out now. The Halloween teaser is up. Our subscribers have been asking for this video for months. What they've really been asking is for me to use my gift to make contact with Eileen Warren. You see, the Hearst isn't just your average everyday haunted hotel. It's also the site of one of the most internet-famous mysteries of the last decade. Nearly 10 years ago, after going missing for almost a week, the remains of a 25-year-old grad student, Eileen Warren's were found scattered in an elevator shaft. A month into the investigation, authorities released footage from hours before Eileen's untimely death. Her bizarre and erratic behavior led many moms, basement-dwelling internet sleuths to believe her death was not the accident the coroner had ruled it to be. These Reddit detectives all have their own theories about how and why Eileen Warren ended up in that elevator shaft, but based on her posts and my own experiences with the paranormal, I have a sneaking suspicion that her visions were more psychic than psychotic. We're not backing out, we're just wigging out, Emma counters, chewing on her lip. Despite Emma's laissez-faire facade, lip chewing is her number one tell that she's nervous as hell. Can I swim now? Kiki asks, arms folded and lips pouty. Her bikini is tie-dye and matches her hair. Go for it. I gotta go inside and finish AP Calc. You're not done yet? I finished that at lunch. Emma yawns and stretches, rubbernecking Kiki as she leaves to splash into the pool. I finished that at lunch, Chase mocks Emma's not-so-humble brag. He chugs the rest of his dew and then smashes the can in one hand and copies it into the trash. 11 a.m. tomorrow. Please, don't be late. He shouts the last line for Kiki, who is always late to absolutely everything. She flips him off from her rainbow pool float, confirming that she 100% plans to be late. Chase groans and pauses to flip the light off inside the pool house. He looks back at me. Come and see? I stare past him at the faceless, shadowy figure standing in the doorway. It's been many years, but there's no mistaking it. The deadly omen that haunted my preschool years, that vanished the day my mother died, is back. Chrissy? Chase blinks at me with concern in his eyes. I'm frozen in place. I shut my eyes tight, and when I open them again, the shadow man is gone. Coming, is all I say. Yeah, this one's going to be really good, too. I can't wait. I'm so excited. That's why I picked it back up, because it was getting really, really good. Wow, these are, like, long chapters, guys. I don't know what we're going to do. Just to get through, 2 books? It's already taken 40 minutes? That's crazy. And we still have 7 books to go. Alright, up next is One by One by Frida Mcfadden. This one's about being taken out by something or someone. Oh yeah, Frida Mcfadden. Wait. Alright, prologue. Anonymous. There will be 6 of us. 6 adults stuffed into a 6-person minivan like sardines with all the luggage we felt. I thought I didn't hit the button. We couldn't possibly live without during our vacation at a swanky luxury inn. Our reservation is for 6 days. 6 days of hiking and hot tubs. 6 days away from civilization. My mother was a religious woman. That's how I know that on the 6th day, both man and serpent were created. You know, the snake that eventually convinced Adam and Eve to eat the forbidden fruit and got them kicked out of the Garden of Eden forever? That's why the number 6 represents both man and the evil that weakens him. In Revelation, 666 is the number of the devil. The 6th commandment is thou shalt not kill. 6 is not a nice number. I'm not religious. I don't go to church. I don't believe in a higher power. 6 is just like any other number to me. But I know that every single one of these 6 people has a secret. They don't want anyone to know. I can tell you my secret right now. At the end of this week, only one of us will make it home alive. Whoa. Chapter 1, Claire. I don't know when I started to hate my husband. I didn't always. When we tied the knot over 10 years ago, we held hands and I swore I would love him forever. Until death did us part, and I meant it. I meant it with every fiber of my being. I genuinely believed I would be married to Noah Matchett for the rest of my life. I fantasized about the 2 of us growing old together, holding hands while sitting in matching rocking chairs in a retirement home. And when the minister declared us husband and wife, I patted myself on the back for choosing the right guy. I'm not sure what happened between then and now, but I can't stand the guy anymore. Where's my U Chicago shirt, Claire? Noah is hunched over the top drawer of his dresser, his eyebrows bunched together as his hazel eyes stare down into the contents of the drawer. He clears his throat. I'm telling you, these chapters are long in these books. Oh wait, this one's not that bad. Which is what he always does when he's concentrating hard on something. I used to find it cute and endearing. Now I find it irritating. Nails on a chalkboard irritating. I don't know. I grab a couple of shirts out of my own dresser drawer and shove them into the brown luggage gaping open on our bed. It's not in the drawer. He looks up from the drawer and purses his lips. If it were in the drawer, why would I be asking you about it? Maybe this is why I hate my husband, because he's become a huge jerk. I don't know where your shirt is. I start sifting through my bras. How many bras do you bring for a week-long trip? I'm never certain. It's your shirt. Yeah, but you did the laundry. So? I stuff 4 bras into my luggage. That should be enough. Do you think while I'm doing laundry, I'm thinking to myself, oh, here's Noah's U Chicago shirt. Better put that somewhere special instead of the drawer where I put every other shirt of his I've ever washed in the history of doing laundry? He rolls his eyes at me and sifts through the drawer one more time. Well, it's not in here. I don't know what to tell you, Noah. He rubs at the dark stubble on his chin that has a hint of gray. He hasn't shaved in 3 days because he's been working from home. He doesn't care what he looks like unless he has to go to work. Maybe he put it in Aiden's dresser by mistake. That's unlikely since our 9-year-old son now does his own laundry. Somehow my 4th grader can wash his own clothes, but my adult husband is not capable of it. From the moment we got married, laundry automatically became my responsibility. There was no discussion. The wife does the laundry. End of story. You're welcome to check Aiden's dresser, I say. Noah shoots me an exasperated look, then he stomps off in the direction of our son's room, his large feet creaking against the floorboards. He's not going to find the shirt there. I would bet $1,000,000 the shirt is right in the top drawer where he's been looking all along. In only a few short hours, we are embarking on a week-long trip to a cozy inn located in the northern part of Colorado. Ooh. It will be about a 4-hour drive to get there, followed by a week of breakfast buffets, a jacuzzi, nature walks, and a lake with trout that are basically jumping out of the water. It's the perfect combination of getting away from urban, or in our case, suburban, life, and still enjoying hot and cold running water and cable TV. I can't wait. Well, except for the 4 hours in a car with my husband, who probably won't stop talking about his stupid used Chicago shirt. I drop a handful of socks in my luggage and walk over to Noah's dresser. I've got 2 full dressers and a closet filled with clothes, whereas Noah just has the 1 dresser and a few dress shirts in the closet. When we were first together, he used to tease me about how much clothing I had compared with him. He still teases me about it, but now the jabs are considerably less playful. If you buy 1 more shirt, we're going to have to buy a separate house just for your clothing, Claire. It's not so much. My friend Lindsay literally has an entire room just for her clothing, but she's not married, so she gets to do whatever she wants without another person criticizing her every move. I sift through the drawer, pushing through the range of gray and black t-shirts. Noah has never been a fan of bright colors. He tends to stick with the grayscale. One time he bought a green shirt. That was his midlife crisis. After only a few seconds, I see the flash of maroon shoved into the one corner of the drawer. I pull out the shirt and see the word U Chicago etched across the front in faded lettering. Noah has had this t-shirt as long as I've known him. It's his favorite shirt. For a moment, I'm seized with the urge to stuff this shirt into the bottom of the garbage bin without telling him. He'll go crazy looking for it, and really, this shirt needs to be retired. There's a hole forming at the collar, and the hem is all frayed. Then again, I've got enough secrets from my husband right now, and I don't want to miss out on the pure satisfaction of informing him that the shirt was in the drawer all along. Mommy! My 7-year-old daughter, Emma, is standing at the doorway to our bedroom, watching me contemplate what to do with her father's favorite t-shirt. Even though we've already had breakfast, she's still wearing her frozen pajamas, which are royal blue with little snowflakes all over them. I guiltily shove the t-shirt back into the drawer and turn to smile at Emma. She doesn't smile back. While her big brother is excited about the idea of staying with Aunt Penny for a week, Emma is decidedly freaked out. For the last week, Emma has crawled into our queen-size bed every single night to sleep. Fortunately, Noah and I sleep with a gap the size of the Atlantic Ocean between us. What's wrong, honey? Emma's lower lip trembles. She runs over to me and wraps her skinny arms around my hips. Don't go, Mommy, please. Emma. I attempt to pry her off me, but she's stuck like glue. It's sweet, and as much as I dislike my husband, I love my children. I've always loved children. It's part of the reason I became a teacher. Nothing makes me happier than seeing the smiles light up those little faces. There's a spider. Or something, I don't know. I reach down and wipe Emma's damp light brown curls from her face. Her hair looks like mine, but it's still baby soft. I lean in and bury my face in it. It smells like her watermelon shampoo. It's just a week, sweetheart, I say. She looks up at me with her little tear-streaked cheeks. But what if something happens to you? I don't know how my 7-year-old daughter got so neurotic. She worries about everything, including things no child has any business worrying about. Like when there was talk of a teacher strike last year, she was worried I wouldn't have a job and we wouldn't be able to afford food. What 7-year-old worries about that? Why are you so worried, Emma? She chews on her little pink lip. Well, you're going to be in the woods. I don't blame her for worrying if that's what she thinks. Neither of her parents is what you call the outdoorsy type, by any stretch of the imagination. Don't worry, we're staying in a nice hotel. It will be really safe. Her light brown eyes bunched together. But I had a dream that what? Emma scrunches up her face. That a monster in the forest ate you up. As laughable, of course. We'll be sticking to the hotel and its amenities most of the week, and if we do venture out, we will keep to circumscribed locations like hiking trails for lame-o city slicker tourists. And even if we weren't, I'm sure whatever Emma is imagining is some sort of blue cookie monster-like creature appearing out of the wilderness and stuffing us all into his mouth in one fell swoop. Yet Emma does sometimes have a strange intuition about things. One night she came into our bedroom at 2 a.m, crying about a dream that Grandpa Joe had died. 2 days later, my seemingly healthy father succumbed to a massive heart attack. Noah chalked it all up to coincidence, but I never forgot. As much as I hate to admit it, Emma's premonition is making me uneasy. Maybe this trip is a mistake. I look down at the 2 sets of luggage on our bed. Noah's with the clothes stuffed haphazardly inside, and mine with everything folded neatly. What if I told him I didn't want to go? Would he freak out? Or would he be relieved that he doesn't have to spend the next week with someone he hates? But then I hear Noah's laughter coming from outside the door. Apparently he heard the whole exchange. Emma! He stands in the door with his arms folded across his chest. You're not really worried about that, are you? Emma's lower lip trembles. You know there's no such thing as monsters. He cocks his head to the side. Well, except for tickle monsters. Despite her worries, Emma's brown eyes widen excitedly. After a solid minute of tickling, she appears to have forgotten all about her scary dream. It must be nice to be a child who can live in the moment and forget everything with the help of a little tickling. Noah is good with the kids. I can't say he isn't. They adore him, and he loves them as much as I do, and that's why we're still together. Even though we despise each other, even though we've never said the words out loud, we both know we're staying together for the kids, for now. Okay, your Aunt Penny is going to be here any minute. Is your suitcase all packed? We bought Emma a frozen rolling luggage just for this trip, so she was excited about it when she got it. Almost. Well, you better finish getting packed, he arches one eyebrow, or else the tickle monster might come back. He makes his fingers into claws and Emma squeals and flees the room. He watches her go, a crooked smile on his face. For a moment I recall how much I used to love him, how much fun we used to have together, the way my whole body would tingle in anticipation when I knew he was taking me out to dinner. He used to make me laugh the same way he made Emma laugh. I wonder if we could fix things. Maybe if I say something kind right now instead of my usual snarky comment, he would smile and laugh, and maybe we could use this trip as a chance to heal our relationship. Maybe it isn't too late for us. But then Noah turns to look at me and the smile slides off his face. You lost my shirt, he says. It was right in your drawer all along, Einstein. We are not going to be fixing things today or ever. Wow, they have like a really bad relationship. I feel so bad. But like at least the kids are loved and adored. Alright, next we have Cassandra Caw's Nothing But Blackened Teeth. Gorgeously creepy haunted house tales steeped in Japanese folklore. And this is copyrighted 2021. Chapter 1. How the fuck are you this rich? I took in the old vestibule, the wood ceiling that doomed our heads. Time etched itself into the shape and stretch of the high-end mansion, its presence apparent in even the texture of the crumbling dark. It felt profane to see the place like this, without crusaders to chaperone us, no one to say, do not touch, and be careful, this was old before the word for such things existed. That Philip could finance this desecration, lock, stock, no question, and do so without self-reproach was symptomatic of our fundamental differences. He shrugged, smiled, cocked like the sure thing that was his whole life. Come on, it's a wedding gift. They're supposed to be extravagant. Extravagant is matching Rolex watches. Extravagant, I slowed down for effect, taking time between each syllable, is a honeymoon trip to Hawaii. This, on the other hand, is beyond absurd, dude. You flew us all to Japan. First class. And then rented the fucking Imperial Palace, or it's not a palace, it's just a mansion. And I didn't rent the building per se. Just got us permits to spend a few nights here. Oh, like that makes this any less ridiculous. Stop. Don't finish. I get it. Philip dropped his suitcases out the door and palmed the back of his neck, looking sheepish. His varsity jacket, still perfectly fitted to his broad quarterback frame, blazed indigo and yellow where it caught the sun. In the dusk, the letters of his name were guilt and glory and good stitching. Poster boy perfect, everyone craved him like a vice. Seriously, though, it's no big deal. No big deal, he says. Freaking billionaires. Cat! Have you ever cannonballed into a cold lake? The shock of an old memory is kind of like that. Every neuron singeing a bright hosanna. Here we are. You forgot about us, but we didn't forget about you. Only one other person had ever said my name that way. Is Lynn coming? I licked the corner of a tooth. No comment. You could just about smell the cream on the lip of Philip's grin, though. I tried not to cringe, to wince, beset by a zoetrope of sudden emotions. I hadn't spoken to Lynn since before I checked myself into the hospital for terminal... Ennui. Exhaustion so acute it couldn't be sanitized with sleep, couldn't be remedied by anything but a twist of rope tugged tight. The doctors kept me for 6 days and then sent me home, pocket stuffed with pills and appointments and placards of advocating the commandments of safer living. I spent 6 months doing the work, a shut-in committed to the betterment of self-university in my study of Japanese literature, both formal and otherwise, shelved temporarily. When I came out, there was a wedding in a world so seamlessly closed up around the space where I stood. You'd think I was never there in the first place. A door thumped shut and we both jumped, turned like cogs. All my grief riled somewhere else. I swear, if that moment wasn't magic, wasn't everything that it is right and good, nothing else in the world is allowed to call itself beautiful. It was perfect. A Hallmark commercial in freeze frame, autumn leaves swirling against a backdrop of beach and white cedar, God rays dripping between the boughs, Faze and Talia emerging, arms looped together, eyes only for each other, smiling so hard that all I wanted to do was promise them that forever will always, eternally, unchangingly be just like this. Suno Matsuyama Nami Mo Konamu. My head jackknifed up. There it was, the stutter of a girl's voice, sweet despite its coarseness, like a square of fabric worn ragged, like a sound carried on the last ragged breath of a failing record player, a hallucination. It had to be. It needed to be. You heard something spooky? Said Philip. I strong-armed a smile into place. Yeah, there's a headless lady in the air right there who says that she killed herself because you never called. You shouldn't ghost people, dude. It's bad manners. His joviality wicked away, his own expression tripping over old memories. Hey, look, if you're still mad about... It's old news. I shook my head. Old and buried. I'm still sorry. I stiffened. You said that already. I know, but that shit that I did, that wasn't cool. You and me, I should have found a better way of ending things, and... His hands fluttered up and fell in time with the backbeat of his confession. Philip's expression cracked with the guilt he'd held for years, like a reliquary. This wasn't the first time we'd had this conversation. This wasn't even the 10th, the 30th. Truth was, I hated that he still felt guilty. It wasn't charitable, but apologies didn't exonerate the sinner, only compelled a graciousness from its recipient. The words, each time they came, so repetitive that I could tune a clock to their inks, sawed through me. You can't move forward when someone keeps dragging me back. I trapped the tip of my tongue between my teeth, bit down and exhaled through the steam. All news. I'm so sorry. Your punishment, I guess, is dealing with bad puns forever. I take it. Phillips made a bassoon noise deep in his lungs, a kind of laugh, and traded his Timberlands for the pair of slippers he'd bought at a souvenir shop at the airport. It cost him too much, but the attendant, her lipstick game sharp as a paper cut, had thrown in her number, and Philip always folds for wolves in girlskin clothing. Long as you promise you don't spook the ghosts. In another life, I had been brave, growing up where we did, back in melting pot Malaysia, down in the tropics, where the mangroves spread dense as mist. You knew to look for ghosts. Superstition was a compass. It steered your attention... Guys. Good Lord. Steered your attention through the alleys, led your eyes to crosswalks filthy with makeshift shrines, offerings, and appeasement, scattered by traffic. The five of us spent years in restless pilgrimage, searching for the holy dead in Kuala Lumpur. Every haunted house, every abandoned hospital, every storm drain, to have clasped a body like a girl's final prayer. We sieved through them all, and I was always in the vanguard, torchlight in hand, eager to show the way. Things change. A breeze slouched through the decaying shoji screens, lavender, mildew, sandalwood, and rotting incense. Some of the paper panels were peeling in strips, others gnawed to the still vividly lacquered wood, but the tatami mantling the floors. There was so much, too much of it everywhere, more than even a high-end noble's house should hold, and all of it was pristine. Store-bought fresh even. When the centuries should have chewed the straw to mulch, the sight of it itched under my skin like someone fed those small black picnic ants through a vein somehow, got them to spread out under the thin layer of dermis, got them to start digging. I shuddered. It was possible that someone would come in to renovate, maybe someone who'd decided that if the manor was going to house 5 idiot foreigners, they might as well make it a bit more livable. But the interior didn't smell like it had people here, not for a long, long time, and some of it said like such old buildings do. Green and damp and dark and hungry, hollow as a stomach that'd forgotten what it was like to eat. Does someone use this as a summer house? Philip shrugged. Probably. I don't know. My guy didn't want to talk too much about it. Shook my head, because something about this place doesn't add up. We're probably not the only customers in the destination horror business, said Philip, grinning. Relax. Faze whistled, interrupted me. Yeah, this is the real deal. My man, Philip, you're a gentleman, and 6 quarters. Was nothing. Philip bared a bright, fierce grin at the happy couple. Just some good old-fashioned luck and the family money put to great use. You don't ever quit about the inheritance, do you? Said Faze, smile only as far as the spokes of his cheeks, eyes flat. He cupped an arm around Talia's waist. We knew you're rich, Philip. Come on, dude. That wasn't what I was trying to say. Arms spread, body language open as a house with no doors. You couldn't hate Philip for long. But Faze was trying. Besides, my money is your money. Brothers to the end, you know? Talia was taller, duskier than Faze. Part Bengali, part Telugu. Legs like stilts, a smile like a Christmas miracle. And when she laughed low like a note in a cello's long throat, it was as if she had been the one to teach the world the sound. Talia had long fingers atop the jut of Philip's shoulder and bowed her head precociously regal. Don't fight, both of you. Not today. Who's fighting? Faze had a radio voice and an easy-listening tenor just about south of primetime worthy. Nothing some hard living couldn't fix. Some good cigarettes and bad whiskey. He wasn't much of anything except doughier than ever. Not fat. Not that there was anything wrong with that. But gluttonous almost, soft as good clay, beauty in her unfinished pottery, half-molded, still slick, the tips of Faze's hair jutting out at the nape dude with sweat. I felt an immediate guilt at the unkind observation. Faze was my best friend, and he'd done more than his share, talking Talia down from walling me out. She and I made eye contact as the boys bantered, their voices prickling like the hackles of a Doberman, short and stark, animosity between the niceness and Talia's expression congealed with dislike. I stroked a hand over my arm and tried to keep a smile on. A muscle in Talia's jaw went rigid as she cracked her face into a similar configuration, her smile tense, mineral, bracketed with impatience. I didn't think you were actually going to come. Not after everything you had to say about the two of us. Courtesy velveted her voice. Talia peeled from Faze and strode across the room, closing the distance between us 2 inches too much. I could smell her, roses and sweet cardamom. You two weren't happy, I said, hands burrowed into my pockets, a slight backward lean to the axis of my spine. I'm glad that you figured out your differences, but at the time you were at each other's throats. Talia had almost 3 inches on me and levered that to her advantage looming. Your insistence that we break up didn't help. I didn't insist anything. I heard my voice constrict, the registers narrow so much, every syllable caught and was crushed together into a slurry. I just thought, you nearly cost me everything, Talia said, still staccato in her rage. I have both your best interests at heart. Are you sure? Her expression shaded with pity. I glanced at the boys. Or were you hoping to get Faze back? We had dated, if you could call it that. 8 weeks, no chemistry, not even a kiss, and had we been older, our confidence less flimsy, less dependent on the perceived temperature of our reputations, we'd have known to end it sooner. Something came out of that, at least, a friendship. Guilt bruised, gestated in the shambles of a stillborn romance, but a friendship nonetheless. The light deepened in the house, blued where it broke into the corridors. I'm fucking sure of it, and Jesus, I don't want your man, I told her with as much detachment as I could scrounge, not wanting to sell Faye's short. Not after all this. It's been years since we were together, and I don't know what more you want from me. I've apologized. I've tried to make it up to you. Talia let a corner of her lips wither. You could have stayed home. Yeah? Well, the sentence emptied into a surprised flutter of noises as the two guys, men, barely, and by definition rather than practice, their egos still too molten, came tumbling back from the periphery. Philip had Faye's laughingly mounted on his shoulder, a half-fireman carry with the latter's elbow stabbed into the divot of Philip's collarbone. Faye's, he at first looked like he might have been grinning through the debacle, but the way his skin pulled upward from his teeth, that said different. It was a grimace, bared teeth restrained by a membrane of decorum. Put my husband down, Talia fluted, reaching for her groom-to-be. I can handle it, a snarling comeback without an anchor, in fact. Philip could have kept Faye suspended forever, but he relented as Talia curved a shoulder against him. Arms raised like a supplicant, he set Faye down and took a languid step back, thumbs hooked through his belt buckles, his grin still easy as you please. Jackass, said Faye, dusting the indignity from himself. So tell me about this place, Philip, said Talia, voice billowing in volume, filling the room, the house in its dark. Tell me this isn't secretly Matsu Castle, because I'll kill myself if it is. I heard they buried a dancing girl in the walls, and the castle shakes if anyone even thinks about dancing near it. The manor seemed to breathe in, drinking her promise. I could tell we all noticed it all at once, but instead of hightailing it, we bent our heads like this was a baptism. The house might behold you to that, I blurted before I could stop myself, and the sheer rawness of the statement, the weird puppyish earnestness in its jump from my throat made me cringe. A long year spent making acquaintances with the demons inside you, each new day a fresh covenant. It does things to you. More specifically, it undoes things inside you. To have to barter for the bravery to go outside, pick up the phone, spend 10 minutes assured in the upward trajectory of your recovery, that the appointments are enough, that you can be enough, that one day this will be enough to make things okay again. All those things change you. Still, no one looked as askance. If anything, the words lit something in their expression, the last light of the day etching their faces in rough shadows. Talia held my gaze, her eyes cold black water. Luckily, Philip and stretched like a dog, long and lazy, completely unself-conscious, scratched behind his ear, smile crooking his lips. This isn't Matsu Castle. Faye patted Talia's arm. Nah, not even Philip could run out a place like that. Philip tried on abashment, complete with an honest-to-God all-shucks toe-scuffing, but it didn't work. At this point, he'd been homecoming king. Class valedictorian, debate captain, chess wonderkind, every type of impressive a boy could hope to be, king of kings and a palace of princes, even when they try. Guys like him can't do self-effacing, but they can be good sports. This is better. I rolled my luggage up against a pillar, slouched carefully against the wood. Despite everything, I was warming to their enthusiasm, partially because it was so much easier to just go along with it. Less lonely, too. Media is all about the gospel of the lone wolf, but the truth is we're all just sheep. But what is this exactly, said Faye, ever meticulous when love was a mandrill in his deliberations, his fingers bangled Talia's wrist, and his smile creased from worry. Well, my guy wouldn't give me a name. He said he didn't want anything on record in case. Could have just told you over the phone, said Faye. Philip tapped the side of a finger to his temple. Didn't want it to be a he said, they said thing either. He was a stickler for the rules. I guess it is cultural, said Faye, full of knowing. His mother was Japanese, small-framed and smileless. Makes sense. We have a permit for this, though, right? Said Talia, a wobble in her gilded prep school inflections. Yeah, we do. Don't worry about that. Philip palmed the back of his neck. Well, sort of. We have a permit allowing us to access the land here. The mansion's sort of collateral benefit. Okay, so we don't have a name, began Faze, counting sins on his fingers. We don't actually have a permit to be here, but we have booze, food, sleeping bags, a youthful compulsion to do stupid shit, and a hunger for a good ghost story, said Talia. The late light did beautiful things to her skin, burnished her in gold. What is the scoop on this mansion? I don't know, Philip said, the sing-song timbre of his voice familiar, the sound of it like a coyote lying about where he'd left the sun. But rumor has it that this was once supposed to be the site of a beautiful wedding. Unfortunately, the groom never showed up. He died along the way. If you die, said Talia, pinching a curd of Faze's waist between her fingers, I'm going to marry Philip instead, just so you know. Philip smiled at the proclamation like he'd heard it 10 times before from 10,000 other women. Knew every syllable was meant, would already be true if it weren't for fraternal bonds, and I was the only one who saw how Faze's answering smile wouldn't climb to his eyes. I don't think you're allowed to marry your priest, Faze said, easy as anything. But if you had to get a replacement, I'd rather you pick Cat. Alright, so I'm going to stop there because, one, I'm losing my voice. Two, there's still like 14 pages of that, but this sounds really good. The one thing I'm noticing, though, is I'm having a hard time with pronouncing things because it is a Japanese masterpiece that was put into English, so I'm totally butchering things, and I feel horrible about it. But I think the last book we're going to do is Long Live the Pumpkin Queen. Maybe, I don't know. Let me double check how many. Yeah, we'll do Long Live the Pumpkin Queen. So this is by Shia Earnshaw, and this is The Nightmare Didn't End After Christmas. So basically, Sally feels like she replaced one cage for another. And she's questioning things, and she says when Sally and Zero accidentally uncover a long hidden doorway to an ancient realm called Dreamtown, she unknowingly sets in motion a chain of sinister events that will put her future as Pumpkin Queen and the future of Halloween Town itself in jeopardy. Can Sally discover what it means to be true to herself and save the town she's learned to call home, or will her future turn into her worst, nightmare? This is 2022, clearly. This literally just came out, and I ran. As soon as I saw it, I was like, mine. Alright, so here's the prologue. At the crypt's inky hour of midnight, Jack and I are married atop Spiral Hill in the Death's Door Cemetery. Wind stirs the bone-dry leaves, and Jack takes my soft ragdoll hands in his. The coolness of his fingers calming the flutter rippling across my stitched seams. The mayor stands broad-chested before us, officiating the ceremony, his face alternating between corkscrew-eyed elation and pale, ghastly tears, while we speak our vows to each other in the grim custom of ancient wedding eulogies. The moon is a bloody red in the sky, a good omen, and a wilted oleander flower plucked from a patch of poison ivy at the far end of Halloween Town is tucked just behind my left ear, a custom that ensures a long, dreadful life. I squeeze Jack's hands tighter. His black tuxedo sails away in the cold night air, while my dress stitched from a scrap of black spinster lace sewn myself the night before billows like a ghost in the breeze. Cautiously, my gaze flicks to the crowd where I can feel the cold, spiteful eyes of Dr. Finkelstein watching me from the front row, mouth quivering with fury now that I am finally escaping him once and for all. I am no longer your creation, I think, words knitted in my chest. It seems unimaginable that barely a year ago I feared I might spend my life trapped in Dr. Finkelstein's lab, fated to only ever watch Jack from afar, loving him but certain he would never know the ache I felt whenever he looked my way. But after Jack tried to steal Christmas from Sandy Claus, after he nearly died of venturing into the human world to deliver our grim presents on Christmas Eve, with Zero leading his sleigh of skeleton reindeer, a plan I sensed was doomed from the start, I knew I couldn't spend my life without him. I knew I wouldn't waste another night. Under a dark, snow-flecked sky, Jack and I walked out to the cemetery, his moon-hollow eyes sinking into mine. And at last, after a lifetime of loving him from afar, my ragdoll heart aching to know what it would feel like if he ever loved me back, we shared our first kiss on the crest of Spiral Hill, the same place where we now stand, hand in hand. The mayor's face spins back around to reveal his wide, toothy grin, his black window bow tie, eerily shiny in the moonlight, and he announces Jack and me, husband and wife, voice bellowing over the crowd. Jack leans forward, eyes damp at the edges, and presses his grave cold mouth to mine, and my seams feel like they're going to fray and burst, like they can't contain the swollen, chest-widening feeling rupturing through me, a feeling so strange and unknown and peculiar that it makes me dizzy, makes my head swim, my legs teeter. Jack and I are married. He wipes away the tears streaming down my cotton cheekbones to my chin and looks at me like his own chest is about to fracture. And for a moment I'm certain they should just bury us both here at the center of the graveyard, married and died on the same day, unable to contain the unspeakable, awful, wondrous emotion breaking against our eyelids. The dreadful residents of Halloween Town applaud, tossing tiny dwarf spiders at our feet as we leave the cemetery, and the warmth in my chest feels like bats clamoring for a way out of my rib cage, trying to break me apart. I am now Sally Skellington, the Pumpkin Queen, and I'm certain I will never again be as happy as I am right now. Alright, I am going to attempt to read all this. I don't think I'll be able to get through it, but we shall see. My friend is going to be here when I get off work, so. Chapter 1. The evening skyline of Halloween Town is dotted with tiny pinholes of starlight, and across the town square, pumpkins glow a sinister copper orange. From Jack's house atop Skull Hill, the town looks different, draped in long finger-like shadows. The air smells different, too, like black licorice and raven wings and a little like pumpkin jam, nothing like the foul stench of sodium chloride and rubbing alcohol that permeates Dr. Finkelstein's lab, a place that was once my home, but also a prison. The memory of it churns inside me, entwined with a feeling of stark relief that I will never again sleep inside that cold observatory, never lie awake alone in a narrow, moth-eaten bed, staring through a tiny window up at Jack's house in the distance, daydreaming of living within its walls someday. It feels like a fairy tale from one of those happily ever after books where the princess storms the castle, slays a goblin dragon, and takes over the kingdom for herself, except I am not golden-haired or fine-boned. I have no bones at all. I am a rag doll who married a skeleton king, a rag doll who woke from the impossible daydream and found herself in her own heroine story, a tale whose ending hasn't yet been written, but instead is only just beginning. I leave the terrace overlooking the town and move back into the bedroom I now share with Jack, facing the tall spiderweb cracked mirror, leaning against the slanted wall. I run my fingers through my hair, pulling it in forward over my shoulders, the scarlet strands so coffin straight that they could never be coiled or coiffed or pinned up with bat bows. I press my palms against my patchwork dress, staring at my reflection in the glass, the cross seams along my chest, the smile seams at the corners of my mouth, the places where Dr. Finkelstein stitched me together, needle and thread and sinister midnight conjurings. No. His creation, made in the dark, damp shadows of his lab. A dead leaf pokes out from the seam along the inside of my left elbow, my stuffing coming loose, and I quickly push it back into place. My threads need to be restitched, leaves gathered, and restuffed. You ready? Jack asks. I turn, and he's standing in our bedroom doorway, holding a black velvet suitcase, the bottomless caverns of his eyes like graves I would happily tumble into. Down, 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 forever without end. A spider, a remnant of the wedding, skitters free from inside the suitcase and runs along the handle before it drops to the floor and falls into a crack. I had wanted to gather herbs from the garden, nightshade, and bottled thorns to take with us, just in case. But Jack assured me that I wouldn't need such things on our honeymoon. Potions and poisons aren't necessary outside of Halloween Town, he had said. There would be no need to poison or put anyone into a deathly sleep. But it's hard for me to imagine a world where such things aren't needed. I turn to smile at Jack, the seams on my cheeks stretching wide, and place my hand around the sturdy bones of his arm. My husband. The man I have loved for so long, at times it felt like it might crack me open, and together we step out into the cool twilight of Halloween Town. At the front gate of our home, guarded by 2 iron cats, spines raised, Jack pushes open the gate to face the waiting crowd, eager to catch a glimpse of the newly married king and queen, and he clears his throat. My wife Sally and I are off on our honeymoon, he announces, grinning, showing all his corn kernel teeth. We'll be back tomorrow. If anything should happen, the mayor will be in charge. The mayor, who stands beside one of the fanged metal cats, jerks his shoulders back at the same moment. His face spins around, revealing the downturned slope of his crooked mouth and the deep worry in his small eyes. Is that such a good idea, Jack? He asked nervously. Perhaps someone else should be in charge, or maybe we should elect a committee. I'm not sure I can make decisions if an important matter were to arise. Or you could delay the honeymoon until after Halloween. It's only 2 weeks away. Spring is a perfect time for a trip, or better yet, just skip the honeymoon altogether. You'll do great. Jack says, clapping the mayor on the shoulder. The mayor briefly reveals a smiling face as if for a half second he believes he's up for the task before his features swivel back around, lips a grim blue, worry rimming his terror-struck eyes. But Jack is unfazed by the mayor's apprehension. It's nothing new, and we make our way through the crowd. Jack shaking hands, accepting the congratulations of the townspeople, who shuffle close, too close, crushing against us, hands reaching out to see us off. But I slink back. The eyes of everyone on me feels like thorny stabs across my linen flesh, pulling me apart bit by bit. I'm not used to the attention, the whites of their eyes like hollowed-out ghosts, peering into my empty soul, judging, appraising. Sally the ragdoll, our pumpkin queen. There is a festering thought inside me. Perhaps they'll think I'm not worthy of the title. A ragdoll should never be queen. A ragdoll who should go back to the darkness of Dr. Finkelstein's lab, cold and solitary and alone. They look at me like they're considering eating me whole. Some of them probably would. But then I catch a flash of white to my left, and Zero appears, pushing through the onlookers to nudge me in the elbow with his glowing jack-o'-lantern nose. And I stroke his ghostly white coat, the soft, transparent feel of his fur, his sagging ears. The tightness in my chest calms, and he smiles his loose, open dog grin. To Zero, I'm no different than I was yesterday, before I married Jack, before I became queen. With Zero hovering at my side, I follow Jack through the town center, ducking through the last of the crowd. Just as Lock, Shock, and Barrel, also known woefully as Boogie's boys, shout, "We'll miss you, Pumpkin Queen!" They've removed their trick-or-treat disguises, revealing their true faces, which are somewhat perplexingly identical to their masked facades, and they grin like the young children they are, yet there is always a sly, crafty undertone hidden in their shimmering eyes that can't ever be trusted. It isn't their grins or their scheming giggles that sends a chill down at the uneven stitching of my spine, however. It's the name they called me, Pumpkin Queen. It's the first time I've heard it said out loud, and it rings in my ears all the way into the forest, to the hinterlands, and the grove of 7 trees. "Are you sure it's safe?" I asked Jack, his face marred by shadows from the towering spiny branches overhead. There was no wind on our walk through the woods, yet now the circle of trees shivers and vibrates, beckoning us closer. Jack taps a finger on the broad tree with a perfect heart, painted a buttery pink, carved at the center. We are standing in the circular grove of 7 trees that lead to 7 holidays, where last year Jack slipped into Christmas Town and kidnapped Sandy Claus. I've never been outside Halloween Town, never ventured beyond its borders, and I spin around now, slightly breathless, marveling at each strange carved tree, each with its own peculiar doorway. A green 4-leaf clover adorns the tree for St. Patrick's Day. A red firework for the 4th of July. A giant turkey marks the entrance to Thanksgiving. A pale painted egg for Easter. A Christmas tree with tiny baubles and lights leads to Christmas Town. And lastly, a grittied orange pumpkin for our home, Halloween Town. After a pause, Jack steps toward the painted heart doorway, a pink and white striped box set near the trunk of the tree. "Of course," he answers, and I can hear the excitement in his voice. He's been to all the holidays, all the towns, except this one. He's been saving this tree for me. I imagine Valentine's Town will be more wondrous than all the rest, and now we'll see it together. He kisses the back of my hand, his eyes tumbling into mine, then he tugs open the heart-shaped door, nested in the trunk of the tree. A wing coils out from inside, soft and warm, smelling faintly of sugar cookies and wild roses. I've never smelled anything so wondrous. Still, nervously, I spin the bone-white wedding band on my finger, my eyes tracing the deadly nightshade, vines engraved along the outer edge, a plant that has meant freedom for me, a way to escape Dr. Finkelstein each time I poison him with nightshade from the garden. You are free now, I remind myself, because although there is a buzzing of curiosity in my chest, there are also nervous crow wings flapping in my stomach. But when I lift my gaze to Jack, his moonless eyes settle the restless crows, and the corners of my mouth tip upward. "I trust you," I say, because I do, more than anything. Jack nods, stepping his long, spidery legs through the opening into the tree, and he pulls me in after him. Aww! Damn, she's really having a hard time with this. Oh, goodness. We still have 4 books to go. I wonder how long the chapters are. We're not gonna make it. No, we're not gonna make it to this one today. No. No. Wow, there's so much going on here. Oh my gosh. Whoa, bro. Whoa. Can we, 48 pages for one chapter? Oh my gosh. No, we're not doing that one. What is this one? How many pages? If I told you. Okay. Okay, this one's interesting because I'm very curious about this one. Give me 1 second though. I'm gonna go check something. Alright, so unfortunately my friend is actually here. No. Don't look at me like that. That's weird. Stop. It's bad enough the cat stares at me when I do these. Anyway, my friend is here, so I'm going to have to cut this short and see you guys in the next one. What we're going to do is we're going to get through this first chapter. So these 4 books here are going to be a part 2. So if you are interested, I will do a part 2 tomorrow. I'll see you guys later. Oh God, I'm so sorry. Thank you for joining me. I hope that doing a little snippet of the first chapter with you guys made it you want to actually pick up these books. Honestly, I want to pick them all up still. This one, I'm not so sure of. I mean, I like it, but I don't at the same time. I feel like I'm going to know what's going to happen. Like, somebody's dad's not dead, maybe. I don't know. But, like, I don't know if I'm going to really like this one. I might, though. I definitely want to get to this one because this one's got, like, a story inside of a story, which is awesome. And I definitely want to get to this one because I love Stephen King. And this one I'm kind of dreading only because it sounds like it's going to be like a domestic violence book. So we'll get to those tomorrow, possibly, or later tonight. It just depends on how the connection goes and everything. But I am going to go and watch Holler with my friend. And I will holler at you guys later. Bye!